Hey class, it's good to see you today. Hope everybody's doing all right. Today we're going to talk about Sir William Wallace from the Middle Ages. We're taking a step back. We've been talking about the Renaissance, but I wanted to do this lesson, and one reason being I've got a good friend in Scotland, and he's actually going to be doing the voice of William Wallace today. You'll be able to click on the pictures, and you'll be able to hear him say different things that William Wallace said. And so, who was William Wallace though? William Wallace was a rebel for Scotland in their rebellion against the King of England, Edward Longshank, or Edward the First, when he took over the crown. He took over the Scottish crown whenever it was empty, and became their king and became the ruler of the country. And nobody liked that. I honestly tell you, I wouldn't like it if somebody came to my country and just took over and started calling themselves the king either. And Sir William Wallace kind of got the ball rolling on this. He stood up for and he said, "Hey, I didn't pledge loyalty to this king. I did not do that, and I'm not going to go and be under control by a tyrant." And Edward Longshank, pretty much, he was a tyrant. So that's what we're talking about today, Sir William Wallace. And like I said, I have to give a big thanks to my friend Scott, who lives in Scotland. And you're going to hear his voice on here some. And so you get to hear an authentic Scottish accent today. All right, here we go. So who was William Wallace? He was one of Scotland's most famous historical figures. All right. He fought for Scotland's independence from England about 700 years ago, and he won at least one major battle, and it weakened the defenses of England some at Stirling Bridge. Now, they were defeated at Falkirk, and I'll get more into the story as we go along here. But this is what he's remembered for, and he's a very famous historical figure in Scotland.
Who was William Wallace? William Wallace is one of Scotland's most famous historical figures. He fought for Scotland's independence over 700 years ago, leading his army in raids on English forces and in major battles at Stirling Bridge and Falkirk.
Here is my friend Scott. He's going to give y'all a little bit of Braveheart here, something William Wallace said in the movie. They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom. That was one of the things he said in the movie, talking about the English and talking about Edward Longshanks. So how was he growing up? His origins? Well, they think he was born around 1270 to 1272. But no one knows for sure, okay? There's a book called The History of William Wallace and Scottish Affairs, and that says he was born in 1276, but no one really knows exactly when he was born, the time period. They know when he died, and we'll talk about that more as we go through the lesson, but they don't know when exactly he was born. If you look right here, this is also a picture from the movie Braveheart, of him as a young boy.
Origins. Wallace was probably born around 1270 to 1272. Little was known about his birth or childhood. Exactly where and when Wallace was born is not very clear. Some people say he was born about 1272, but a book printed in the 16th century called History of William Wallace and Scottish Affairs said he was born in 1276.
All right. So tradition says he was born in Elderslie, all right, in Scotland. I'm not even going to try to pronounce Renfrewshire. I think that's right, but I'm not sure. So tradition says that he was born there, and the people of Elderslie, obviously, if you look at this picture here, they say that was the birthplace of William Wallace as well, but they're not exactly sure of it.
Origins continued. Tradition says he was born in Elderslie, near Paisley, in Renfrewshire. There are links with Ayrshire as well, and it's not clear whether Wallace first fought the English in Ayrshire or Lanark.
Well, let's see what Scott has to say with this.
I was born in Elderslie, Scotland. Some say I was a commoner, others a noble.
Okay, and he says some say I'm a commoner, others a noble, and we're going to get to that on the next page. A commoner is somebody that's just a regular person. He's just a regular person. A noble would be somebody who has some royalty in them. All right. so his family, they believe had a little bit of royalty in them, but most people would say that he was a commoner. That's the common belief, that he was a commoner or a peasant or just a regular person. So Robert the Bruce, if you look right here, this is Robert the Bruce. He also fought the English. He was a noble, and he eventually became the King of Scots. Later on, this was after William Wallace had died.
Origins continued. Tradition sees Wallace as being a commoner or normal person. Robert the Bruce, who also fought the English, was seen as being more noble. But this is not strictly true because Wallace's family were minor nobles.
All right, this right here, this is Edward Longshanks, Edward the First. Okay, he was a tyrant. Let's just go ahead and say what he was. He was a tyrant. Not many people liked him. He was a very brutal man. He had his opinion. If you disagreed with him, he was going to get rid of you, like a lot of the kings that we've talked about with the Middle Ages. So he had taken advantage of the secession crisis in Scotland, and he imposed himself as the ruler with an English administration. So he had people come over, even after he imposed himself as ruler, he had people come over to impose this. All right, he had his own English sheriffs, which we'll get to in a minute. William got rid of one of them. He had people come over and impose taxes and made it where, hey, you're going to pledge your loyalty to me, even though the Scottish really didn't want to pledge their loyalty to him. They say, hey, you're not our king. A lot of them did. Some of them backed him just because they were scared, because, like I said, he was a tyrant. So, but anyway, here we go with talking about Edward the First.
Rebelling against England. In 1296, Edward I of England, Edward Longshanks, had taken advantage of a secession crisis in Scotland and imposed himself as ruler with an English administration. Within months, Scottish unrest was widespread.
All right, so here goes William Wallace. What did William Wallace think about this?
Longshanks was not my king.
He said Longshanks was not his king, and that's whenever he began to rebel. So around 1297, Wallace attacked the town of Lanark, and he killed the English sheriff that was in charge there. And this unrest quickly became full-blown rebellion. All right, men flocked to Wallace, and he began to drive the English out of Fife and Perthshire. So this started up. They weren't very happy about him being the king to begin with. So all it took was one spark, and Wallace gave the Scottish that spark to try to rebel. Although in Wallace's lifetime they did not achieve their freedom from Scotland, and we'll talk more about that later too. So
rebelling against England continued. In May 1297, Wallace attacked the town of Lanark, killing the English sheriff, and unrest quickly became full-blown rebellion. Men flocked to join Wallace, and he began to drive the English out of Fife and Perthshire.
So in 1297, Wallace defeated the much larger army of English army at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. And if you look right here, here's a picture of the Battle of Stirling Bridge. This and other military successes severely weakened the English hold on Scotland, which is what they were wanting. All right, and this battle at Stirling Bridge, I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it because I just want you to know the person, not everything detail that's going on. One of the things, they had over 40,000 men, the English did, during this battle. And because this bridge, the way they had it set up to where they couldn't let but a few in at a time. So the Scottish, who were outnumbered, were just killing them as they come across. They were getting rid of them. So would they have won this battle without this bridge? Who knows? But because the bridge limited how many people could come across at one time, they eventually got all of them, or the ones that they didn't get, they fled, and I think the bridge collapsed at one point too, and a lot of them drowned. You got to think about it. You can't. It'll be hard to swim in all that armor you've got on. So, but anyway, here we go. Let me read this.
Battle of Stirling Bridge. In September 1297, Wallace defeated a much larger English force at the Battle of Stirling Bridge. This and subsequent military successes severely weakened the English hold on Scotland.
All right, so then Wallace launched raids into England, and in late 1297 and 1298, he was knighted. If you look in the picture right here, he was knighted. They knighted him Sir William Wallace. They took the sword and put it across his shoulders, and in the name of John Balliol, the deposed king of Scotland. So he was knighted, and he was appointed the guardian of the kingdom. Remember, the guardian of the kingdom. Let's see what William Wallace has to say about this.
I was appointed guardian of the kingdom.
Said he was appointed guardian of the kingdom.
Being knighted, Wallace then launched raids into England. In late 1297 or early 1298, he was knighted and appointed the guardian of the kingdom in the name of John Balliol, the deposed king of Scotland.
All right. So then you get to Falkirk. And if you look at Falkirk here, Falkirk was a major battle, and it was won by Edward and England. All right. The Scottish and the English armies met near Falkirk, and the Scots were defeated. And it was all part of William's plan. William been drawing them in closer and closer to in the Scottish territory, and just waiting for this battle. But they won, and when they won, William escaped, but he had to go somewhere, somewhere else to kind of regroup. So he went abroad to France, and we'll talk about that on the next slide.
Falkirk. The shock of the defeat at Stirling rallied the English around Edward, who marched north with an army. Wallace's strategy was to avoid confrontation and gradually withdraw. He destroyed the countryside as he went, forcing Edward to march deeper and deeper into Scotland. In July 1298, the Scottish and English armies met near Falkirk, and the Scots were defeated.
All right. So, like I said, Wallace escaped, and little was known about his movements, but they know that he resigned his guardianship, which Robert the Bruce and John Comyn took over. All right. But he left and went to France. The country of France is where they believe Wallace went to, all right, to seek support for the Scottish cause. And then he returned to Scotland in 1303. But while he was gone, Robert the Bruce and John Comyn had accepted a truce with Edward I, all right? And they had come to terms with these, and they did not include William Wallace in on this, all right? So when they didn't include William Wallace in on it, that meant, hey, the king's going to put a price on his head. Anybody that can find him, let's find him, and we're going to get rid of him, because they saw him as a murderous traitor rebel who was against the king. So he kind of got betrayed with all this too, a little bit.
Wallace escaped. Wallace escaped, and little is known of his movements, but at some stage he resigned the guardianship and was succeeded by Robert Bruce and John Comyn. Wallace then went abroad, notably to France, to seek support for the Scottish cause. He returned to Scotland in 1303. In his absence, Robert the Bruce had accepted a truce with Edward I, or Edward Longshanks, and in 1304, John Comyn came to terms with the English as well.
So all these accepted truce. Let's see what William Wallace had to say here.
I fled to France.
Said he fled to France. All right. So like I said, Wallace was excluded from these terms. Excuse me, y'all. He was excluded from these terms, and the English king offered a big sum of money. Hey, what do I always tell y'all? Everything we talk about just about has to do with what? Money. Why do you think the king of England took Scotland over to begin with? For what? Money. That's the reason he did. Everything comes down to money with history. So Wallace was seized. They captured him around Glasgow in August 1305, and Glasgow is where my friend Scott is from. So, and they transport him to London, and he was charged and tried with treason, and he denied it. He said, "Hey, I have never sworn allegiance to the English king. So why are you trying me for treason?" If you look right here, this was the death scene in the movie Braveheart. If you get a chance to watch that, I mean, I know it's an older movie. It's probably about 25 years old now. But if you get a chance to watch it, it's very good. I suggest watching it.
Wallace captured. Wallace was excluded from these terms, and the English king offered a large sum of money to anyone who killed or captured him. Wallace was seized in or near Glasgow in August 1305 and transported to London. He was charged and tried with treason, which he denied, saying he had never sworn allegiance to the English king.
Let's see what William Wallace has to say.
I had never sworn my allegiance to an English king.
He said he'd never sworn his allegiance to an English king. All right, so what happened after they tried him? All right, he was executed. It was held on August 23rd. He was hung, drawn, and quartered. They did all these different things to him. And when I say they quartered him, hung, drawn, and quartered him, they tied his arms and legs to a horse, basically, and tore his arms and legs off. All right, and then they sent his head and placed it on London Bridge. And they took his limbs and displayed them in Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, and Perth. All right. And whenever they did this, that's when Robert the Bruce really took over. He saw this and he didn't like what they did. So he took over and he became an outlaw king himself.
Death. His execution was held on the 23rd of August, where he was hung, drawn, and quartered. His head was placed on London Bridge, and his limbs displayed in Newcastle, Berwick, Stirling, and Perth.
All right, we got some comprehension questions here. We're gonna go over, and y'all go, and after you read this, y'all go back towards it. Where was William Wallace born? Was he born in A, Elderly, Scotland, B, North Carolina, or C, England? He was born in A, Elderly, Scotland. I think I'm saying that right. Well, I might have to ask Scott. Let's see.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Elderly, Scotland. That's where he was born. Number 2, what king of England imposed himself as the ruler of Scotland? Was it Petrarch? Was it B, King Edward I or Edward Longshanks? Or was it C, King Richard? It was B, King Edward I or Edward Longshanks.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
All right. Number 3, at what battle did William Wallace defeat the English in 1297? What battle was it I said he defeated them at? He had one he lost that we talked about, and one he won. Was it A, the First Barons' War? Was it B, Stirling Bridge? Or was it C, the Civil War? It was B, Stirling Bridge, is where he defeated them.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
He had the bridge set up. The bridge was there, so it helped them gain an advantage over England, who had a much larger army in it, because they couldn't send all their forces at them at one time. All right, number 4. What did Wallace say when he was captured? He said, A, I never swore an allegiance to an English king. B, give me freedom. Or C, nothing. A, he said, I never swore an allegiance to an English king. That's when they accused him of treason. He said, I never swore an allegiance to an English king. And if you look right here, this is, like I said, this is the death scene.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
And our last question, how did William Wallace die? A, in his bed, B, of Crohn's disease, or C, he was hung, drawn, and quartered? It's C, he was hung, drawn, and quartered.
Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner.
Alfred the Great's one that died of Crohn's disease, and he died in his bed. So, all right, that's all we have for today, folks. I will be uploading more Renaissance later on this week, and I will see you all tomorrow. Actually, I'll see you all tomorrow for our class Zoom. So, all right, you all have a good day.